I want to get back to a number of new polls out this morning. The first showing Harris with a 3-point lead over Trump in Iowa. Some reports now questioning whether it could lead to a landslide for Harris. The New York Times Siena poll showing Harris narrowly ahead in the 4 states of Nevada, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Georgia, while Trump leads in Arizona. The polls show them locked in close races in those swing states where we heard from Mills and Laura of Michigan and Pennsylvania. Here with us to get a better understanding is political consultant and pollster Frank Luntz. Frank, good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with these Iowa polls from the Des Moines Register. It gives Kamala Harris the lead over Donald Trump. You this morning are questioning the results. Can you walk us through your thoughts here?
This is an outstanding poll done by an outstanding organization, and it has been the gold standard of polling in Iowa for the caucuses, which are noticeably difficult to poll. That said, this is such an outlier that if it turns out to be accurate, this would suggest a very strong tilt towards the Harris campaign. I don't believe it. I question its accuracy because it just runs against every other survey from everyone else. But if it turns out to be true, she's going to have a very good night on Tuesday. If it turns out to be false, we all need to hold the pollsters and the media outlets who publish this accountable. I remember the results from 2020 when poll after poll had Joe Biden winning by 10 points, 12 points, even 15 points in some of these swing states, and they turned out to be dead wrong. So I urge caution from readers and from viewers. Don't jump to conclusions if you see an outlier. I suggest you follow the averages, the Real Clear Politics averages, which does not show this at all in Iowa.
I do want to look at women over the age of 65 when it comes to this poll from Iowa. They fuel the swing from Trump to Harris within a month. So what could this mean in states with more of an elderly population, like Arizona or Florida, for instance?
I think it's also significant, and some of the polling that you put out from Michigan, I thought was instructive. If Harris is uniting the black vote, particularly young black men, that's taking away support that was for Donald Trump as recently as 30 days ago. Young black men are going to decide Georgia. They're going to decide North Carolina. And if they really are swinging back to the Harris campaign, if she really has unified the black community and perhaps even the brown community, that is significant in these 2 key swing states.
Let's talk about young women, Frank, because I want to show a national perspective to our viewers. You have said that young women could be the most valuable demographic in this election. Why them? And who would this give the edge to on Tuesday?
Well, overwhelmingly Harris. And that's the biggest wild card of all. Do young women actually get to the polls and vote? They support her by 2 to 1 in most surveys. And in most of these swing states, they absolutely could be the difference. They have to turn out, and that's always a question. It's not whether they get 70% of the vote. It's do young women make a bigger percentage of the electorate than they usually do? And if that's the case, that is great news for the Harris campaign. Now let's do the counter to that, which are union members, which traditionally vote Democrat. If you are a union that works with your hands, if you're a union member from a place like the Teamsters or the police or the fire, Donald Trump is showing unusual strength among those individuals, and that particularly matters in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. If he's able to keep that union vote for the next 48 hours, that's good news for him in those industrial states. And the last group that we've been talking about a lot are Latinos and Hispanics, and whether or not the comment at Trump's rally is going to do damage. Everything that I see indicates that it's going to have an impact on the Puerto Rican vote, but not the vote of other Latinos. Where does that matter? Pennsylvania, which is arguably the most important state in the country right now.
I want to turn to polling from the New York Times again. It does show Harris in the lead with 4 swing states, a tie in 2, Trump ahead in Arizona, 1 state. Again, we're 48 hours out, Frank. What does this say to you?
Well, I'm looking at states that have at least a 3-point margin, because I know all about margin of errors. And the truth is, if it's a 1-point lead or even a 2-point lead, it's insignificant. At 3 points, it matters. And if you look at that chart right there, in Nevada, Harris looks like she's ahead. Arizona looks like Trump's ahead. I actually think those 2 states are going to vote the same because of the Latino vote Hispanic vote is very strong in both states. If it is 1 point, if it is 2 points, it doesn't matter. And that's why we should be talking about what happens the day after the election. The interview that you showed of that gentleman saying the election is rigged, it could not be worse. If the public does not believe that these results are accurate and fair and that the count and the electoral system works, if we don't believe that, we're going to be a very, even more divided country than we are. And I think it's important for NewsNation and other media outlets to emphasize that democracy does work when we all participate. It does work when every vote is counted and every count is verified. And I'm really concerned, deeply concerned, that we're going to have 40%, even 50% who doubt the results of the election. I don't know what to do about it, but I know that we have to start to discuss it because there's already been lies, misinformation, and disinformation spread on the web. We have to address it before it gets any worse.
I'm so glad you said that. It's certainly something we're combating here at NewsNation and getting the facts out and doing our research. And to your point, our viewers need to do the same. Frank Luntz, really a pleasure talking to you. We hope you come back. I know it's a busy time for you. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thanks.
And a reminder, NewsNation's election night coverage rooted in